Hey guys, thank you for joining me for another yoga practice. This week's class is Merry Twistmas, and it's going to be super great for us around the Christmas time, where a lot of us have a tendency to overindulge, maybe after a big meal or lots of sweets. It can feel like we've got that bloating sensation. So just make sure you practice this not directly after a meal. Make sure you leave it at least 2 hours, or maybe practice it the next morning if you're feeling lethargic or a bit bloated. We're going to be focusing especially on twists and forward folds to help kickstart our metabolism and really aid our digestion today. You may want a couple of blocks to help you get a little bit deeper into the forward folds and the twists, and make sure you take it gently. If anybody has any issues with their low back or SI joint, please ensure that you allow the twist to move into the lower back and the pelvis as much as you need to, so that you don't restrict the lower back into a compression. I really hope you enjoy your practice today. Thank you so much for joining me. Namaste. Okay, so we're just going to start in our comfortable seated position, whatever that looks like for you. You can sit with your legs crossed, extend your legs out in front, draw your shins in towards your chest. Just however you feel most stable, most comfortable. Begin to root down through your pelvis, and then begin to extend up through the entire length of the spine, lifting through to the crown of the head. So we've got nice space. Focus on bringing the awareness to the low belly area. There's a tendency to kind of compress through the low back, and it can create this restrictive feeling in the low belly. So we want to instead lift from the lower ribs, create the space around the abdominal cavity, make sure there's plenty of room to breathe deep into that belly. And we're going to start by breathing, it's called 3-part yoga breath. So breathing on the inhale into the chest, then feel it expanding into the rib cage, and then finally feel it expanding into the low belly. And then as you exhale, you feel it releasing from the low belly, releasing from the rib cage, and then releasing from the upper chest. So I recommend here that you just begin to close your eyes. If you wanted to take Gyan Mudra, you can connect your index finger and your thumb with the remaining 3 fingers stretched out in front palm, face up. And begin to listen to the sound of the breath, connecting to your Ujjayi Pranayama, or your yoga breathing, creating the small restriction to the back of the throat as we exhale. And see if you can consciously become aware of the breath as it travels into the chest, the ribs, and then expands in through the belly. Take one more deep breath in. Exhale, let it go. And softly blinking the eyes open, bring the palms together at the heart center. Namaste. Okay, so we're going to connect now to our Uddiyana Bandha, which is the low belly. So imagine that your belly button is drawing back, so back towards the spine and then up towards the rib cage. Create this almost lock in the low belly. This is going to help keep the lower back nice and safe. It's also going to help bring the awareness to the low belly to help us with bringing that digestive, that heating fire within, to help us digest better and move better as we move into the deeper twists and we move into the forward folds. This is going to help bring awareness to the space we need to help us go a little bit deeper into the postures. So if you can, keep your low belly drawn in for the whole practice. If you find it harder to do that, then as you exhale, just make sure that you draw the belly button in each time you exhale, to try and consciously bring the awareness to that part of the belly. Okay, we're going to start with our spinal warm up. So you can stay exactly where you are. If you had your legs crossed, it might feel nice to change the cross of the legs. And then we're going to bring the right hand to the outside of the right hip. As we inhale, we extend up through the left fingertips. And then as we exhale, we side bend over towards the right. Feel the stretch along the left side of the body. Maybe look up towards the ceiling if it feels good in the neck. Ooh, nice crack in the neck there. Inhale, come through center, reach up. Exhale, left hand to the outside of the left hip. Inhale, reach through the right fingertips. Exhale, side bend over towards the left. Keep Keep the low belly drawn in, ground down through that right side of the pelvis. Make sure the right hip doesn't begin to hike up. Keep the right shoulder down and away from the ear. Inhale, come through center, reach up. Exhale, bring the right hand to the outside of the right hip, the left hand towards the right knee. Inhale, the crown of the head draws away from the tailbone. And as we exhale, we twist, beginning to look out over the right shoulder. So this is the first twist, so take it gently, just tune in, how are you feeling? Make sure that you keep the low belly drawn in and try to bring the rotation from the rib cage. If anyone feels pain in the lower back or the SI joint in any of the twists today, make sure you do allow the hips to move slightly. Otherwise, try to keep the hips grounded, okay? So we don't want to force any compression into the lower back. We really want to be feeling the nice twist through the upper back, the rib cage, and the chest. Inhale, come through center, reach up. Exhale, left hand to the outside of the left hip, right hand towards the left knee. On the inhale, the crown of the head draws away from the tailbone. And as we exhale, we twist, beginning to look out over the left shoulder. So you're really using the musculature of the trunk of the body. So keeping your belly drawn in, the pelvis nice and neutral. You're not using that right hand to crank you round, but instead you're using the muscles from supporting the low back to help you twist a little bit deeper. And only bring the neck into these twists if it feels good. If you're feeling strain around the shoulders or the upper back, then you can just release the neck into a neutral position. Inhale, come through center, reach up. Exhale, release the hands down to the floor. We're going to come into our tabletop position. So on our hands and knees, bring the palms of the hands, the wrists underneath the shoulders, knees underneath hips, feet flat out behind you, fingers spread nice and wide. On the inhale, we move into cow pose. So we open through the front side of the body, lift the crown of the head up as we look forward, chest forward, belly drops down, tailbone begins to lift up. Keep the low belly drawn in to protect the lower back. And then as we exhale, we round the spine. So start the movement at the tailbone. As we lift and separate those shoulder blades, the crown of the head releases towards the earth. Taking a couple more of each at your own pace. And always follow your own breath rhythms. So if your breath cue doesn't match mine, make sure you modify your movements to follow your breath. Don't modify your breath to follow the movements. On your next breath in, wherever you are, we'll come back to a neutral position. Coming into our first downward facing dog, bring the palms of the hands forward about a handprint's distance. Just check in, the fingers are spread nice and wide, the wrist creases are facing the short edge of the mat, pressing through the index finger and the thumb and each knuckle of the hand. The elbow creases begin to spiral forwards towards the front of the mat. The shoulders begin to externally rotate, so the upper arms begin to roll out. Shoulder blades draw down the back and away from the ears. And then we tuck the toes under, lift the sit bones up and back towards the ceiling. Keep the knees bent to start with. Focus on bringing the chest towards the thighs as the crown of the head releases down. There should be no strain around the neck. Keep open through the chest. Continue to press down through the index finger and the thumb as we lift the inner palms of the hands. Sit bones go up towards the ceiling as the hip bones, the fronts of the pelvis, drop down towards the thighs. Okay, and then when you feel like you've got a little bit of space in the backs of the legs, you can begin to pedal the heels, either pressing heels down or just taking one at a time down towards the earth. And continue to breathe deep. Continue to draw the chest towards the thighs as the chest melts downwards, the shoulders draw down and away from the ears. And then on the inhale, look forward, taking as many steps as you need while keeping the knees bent. Take opposite hand to opposite elbow as we come into a ragdoll position. So maybe it feels nicer to let the arms hang heavy. Maybe it feels good to bring some gentle swaying motions. Struggling with my words today. Maybe begin to straighten and bend one knee at a time. Just listen to your body. Listen to any areas where you feel like you may have strain. So for me, lately, I've done a little bit more sitting than I would have liked to have done. So the backs of my legs are feeling a little bit tighter than usual. It's important to take note of this. These sensations, these changes, so I know not to force myself so deep into forward folds.
Maybe for yourself, you're feeling compression in the lower back, so you just know to modify when you come into forward folds. Make sure you keep the chest lifted and don't drop any pressure into the lower back. We can feel different on different days. So just take each day, each practice as it comes without judgment. And then when you're ready, rooting down through the feet, stay lifted through the inner arches of the feet, bend through the knees, begin to roll up the spine. Slowly, slowly as you need, stacking one vertebrae at a time over your hips until your chin comes parallel with the floor. We're going to come into our mountain pose. So Samastitihi, you want your big toes touching with a little bit of space between the heels, or you can have your feet at hips distance apart, whatever feels more comfortable to you. You want your low belly to continue to draw in, connecting to that Uddiyana Bandha, breathing into the ribs. Lengthen through the lower back, so that means drawing the tailbone down towards the earth without squeezing the glutes. Stay open through the collarbone, open through the chest. Draw the shoulders up towards the ears and then back and down so the palms face forward. And as we look forward, chin parallel with the earth. This is our mountain pose. This is our equal standing pose. So you should feel balanced and steady through both sides of the feet. And then we're going to take our sun salutations. So we're going to take 5 rounds of Surya Namaskara A, sun salutation A, just to make sure we're nice and warmed up. So on the inhale, bring the arms up overhead. The first round I'm going to take is going to be modified. So keep the shoulders away from the ears, palms face each other as we look forward. Keep the low ribs drawn in. As we exhale, hinge forward from the hips with a soft bend in the knees. Bring the hands down towards the thighs, the shins, or the earth, depending on what feels most accessible to you. As we inhale, draw the palms up the legs. Maybe we bring the legs towards straight. Keep the shoulders away from the ears, looking forward. Keep the low belly drawn in and the legs active. As we exhale, bend the knees as much as you need to plant the hands. Stepping back to a high plank with the knees lifted or lowered, lower down onto the belly. So keep the elbows drawn into the ribs as we softly lower ourselves down. Inhale, come into baby cobra, tops of the feet flat, elbows draw back towards the rib cage, the shoulders continue to draw down and away from the ears as we look forward. As we exhale, forehead releases down, using the strength of the arms, pressing up through tabletop. Tuck the toes under, downward facing dog. We're just going to hold here for a couple of breaths. Find your gaze point, which can be your toes, your knees, or your belly button. Keep the low belly drawn in and deep expansive breaths through the ribs as the shoulder blades draw down the back and away from the ears. On the inhale, look forward. In as many steps as you need, come forward to that halfway lift. As we exhale, soft bend in the knees as we hinge forward from the hips, crown of the head releases towards the floor. Inhale, soft bend in the knees, bring the arms up overhead. Try to come up with a straight spine. If you're struggling, just keep the hands on the waist as you come up. Exhale, hands down to the sides of the hips, look forward. Okay, some different options this time. Inhale, arms up overhead. Maybe bring the palms together, look towards the thumbs. As we exhale, hinge forward from the hips, hands down towards the floor. Maybe this time the legs work towards staying straight. Inhale, lengthen the spine, look forward. Keep the low belly drawn in. As we exhale, you can step or float back through high plank to low plank, or if it's in your practice, chaturanga. So pressing through the arms, make sure these are our strong foundation. Uddiyana Bandha nice and strong. As we lift the hips back, exhale through chaturanga. Try to land lightly, shoulders no lower than elbows. Inhale, upward facing dog, arms towards straight. Make sure the shoulders don't go past the wrists, knees lifted, legs active, tops of the feet pressing into the earth. And then as we exhale, either roll over the toes or flip over the feet, downward facing dog. Holding for a couple of breaths. Try to get the inhales to match the exhales. If you're struggling to catch your breath in down dog, I know it's quite an active pose, then just drop to the knees, come to a child's pose. Inhale, look forward, step, or if it's in your practice, hop or float. Looking forward, hips high. Land lightly at the front of the mat. Exhale, crown of the head releases down. Inhale. Coming all the way up, looking up, low belly in. Exhale, back to the front of the mat, mountain pose. Third round, inhale. Exhale. Remember, you can stop anytime you're feeling tired. Inhale. Exhale, step or float back. Inhale. Exhale, downward facing dog, holding for a couple of breaths. Press through the index finger and the thumb. Make sure the upper arms roll open. Shoulder blades draw down the back. Inhale. Look forward, step or float. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale. Inhaling, coming up. Exhale. Fold. Inhale, lengthen. Exhale, step or float back. Inhale. Exhale. Holding downward facing dog. Opening up through the backs of the legs. On your next breath in, look forward, step or float. Exhale, crown of the head releases, chin towards shin. Keep the low belly in, inhale. And exhale, last round, inhaling up. Hopefully feeling the heat begin to build, exhale. This is quite imperative for beginning to activate our digestion, inhale. Help sweep away that sluggishness, exhale. Inhale, open through the front side. Try to draw the shoulders back, exhale. Chest towards thighs. Inhale, look forward, step or float. Exhale. Inhale. And exhale, release back down, coming into your mountain pose at the front of the mat. Re-establish your foundations, bring the palms together at the heart center, and just take a couple of deep, long inhales and exhales. Listen to your body. Feel the energy circulating, hopefully feeling warmed up. Hopefully already feeling a little less sluggish, a little less lethargic than we did at the start of our practice. It's important to find that balance between energizing ourselves and fatiguing ourselves. So when we're feeling low of energy, sun salutations are so good at giving us that pickup we need. But you've got to find the balance. If you overdo it or overexert yourself, you're just going to end up even more tired than before you started. So find that balance. Okay, so we're going to come into our standing forward fold. So just, if your feet aren't already, bring them to hips distance apart, hands to the waist as we inhale, we lengthen through the crown of the head. And then as we exhale, we hinge forward from the hips. Now, if you're tight in the backs of the legs, this may feel like enough of a stretch for you. You can just work with this, trying to keep the low belly drawn in, feeling the stretch along the backs of the legs. If you have your blocks, then you can always bring your hands down towards the earth, on towards the blocks, or maybe your fingertips can reach down, or the palms of the hands can reach down towards the earth anyway. We are going to be moving into a twist in this variation. So if you have the blocks, it might be useful. So bring your left hand towards the center. And then as we inhale, we bring the right arm out to either parallel with the earth, or maybe you can bring that right hand up towards the ceiling. Try to bring the movement, the rotation into the chest, as opposed to just lifting through the shoulder. Try to make sure that the chest is spiraling up towards the ceiling. And make sure you're not leaning off to one side. So keep the pelvis nice and level, keep the low belly drawn in. One more breath in. Exhale, release the right hand down towards the earth. Inhale, extend the left arm up. So again, just opening through the collarbone. Try to consciously press into that right hand to help open through the chest a little bit more. If your hands are on the waist, then you just have to modify by keeping the hands on the waist, and just make sure you take it gently. Obviously, you haven't got the support of the base of the foundation, so just take it gently, don't overbalance. One more breath in. Exhale, release down, and then we're just going to deepen into our forward fold. Inhale to lengthen through the crown of the head. Keep the low belly drawn in. Imagine that the chest is drawing forwards as we look forward slightly. And then as we exhale, the crown of the head releases down towards the floor. So you can keep the hands on the earth, the block, or if it's accessible, peace fingers around the big toes. If the peace fingers are around the big toes, just draw the elbows out towards the sides as the shoulders draw down the back and away from the ears. So there's a tendency here, if you're leaning forward, to stick your butt out the back. This makes us feel more balanced, more secure in the posture, but actually it's not as effective a stretch. There's also a risk of hyperextending the backs of the legs. So just see if you can consciously shift the weight forward. Make sure that you're evenly distributing the weight between the balls of the feet and the heels of the feet. See if you can lift the inner arches of the feet as the crown of the head releases down. You almost want to feel a lightness in the heels without overdoing it, without tilting forward. If the legs are bent, then just focus on staying grounded. Inhale, head up, look forward. Exhale fully. Inhale, bring the hands to the waist. Soft bend in the knees. Keep the low belly drawn in as we come all the way back up to standing and return back to our mountain pose. We're going to come into extended triangle now, which is going to help stretch the side of the body. And then we're going to move it into twisted triangle, which is going to be a really deep balancing twisting position. So just bring your feet to about 3 feet wide. Arms out to shoulder height. Bring the left toes in about 10 degrees, and then bring the right toes to face the short edge of the mat. Exhale fully. Inhale to lengthen the crown of the head away from the tailbone, and as we exhale, we reach those right fingertips towards the right side of the room. Release the right hand to the thigh, the shin, the block if you have it. If you have the block, I recommend that you place it to the outside of the foot. And maybe for the full expression, you bring either the palm of the hand or the fingertips to the outside of the right foot. Maybe look up towards the left hand. So again, bringing the twist into the chest as we look up towards the ceiling. Try to press through the foundational hand to help broaden through the chest. Press through the outer side of the left foot as well to stay strong through the back leg. And then as we inhale, soft bend in the right knee, look down to press up, bring the right toes in 10 degrees. Exhale, left toes face the short edge of the mat. Inhale, fully lengthen. Make sure you take a deep, expansive breath. Exhale, reach those left fingertips forward. Release the left hand to the thigh, the shin, the block on the outside of the foot if you can, or maybe towards the floor. Right arm, reaches up towards the ceiling. Look up towards the right thumb. Continue to press through the outside of the right foot as the right hip draws back and in line with the left. You can always have a soft bend in the left knee as you work with opening up through the back of the leg. You never want to force it, you never want to feel pain. Keep the shoulders down and away from the ears. As we inhale, look down, soft bend in the knee to press up. Bring the left toes in. Exhale, release the arms for a moment before we move into our twisted triangle. So I recommend here that we start with hands on the waist as we inhale. Bring the right toes to face the short edge of the mat again. Bring the back foot this time at about 45 degrees, so at a diagonal angle. You can have heel to heel alignment, or if you know that your balance isn't that good today, then you can bring your left foot a little bit wider so it's more like hips distance. As we focus on squaring the hips now to the short edge of the mat as opposed to opening them up to the long side of the mat, make sure the pelvis is twisting to the short edge of the mat. You don't want to be feeling any pain in that back knee. If you are, bring the feet wider. Okay, so it's quite a challenging posture. Bring the right hand to the right waist. Inhale to lengthen up through the left fingertips. Exhale, hinge forward from the hips. Bring the left hand The first option is to bring it towards the block on the inside of the foot. To make it more challenging, bring it to the outside of the foot. For the full expression, the left hand comes towards the outside of the right foot. If you haven't got a block, you'll just have to place the left hand on the right leg somewhere. Okay, and then we keep the low belly drawn in as we begin to twist from the upper rib cage again. Right arm up towards the ceiling as we look towards the right thumb. So take this posture slowly and in segments. Make sure you're comfortable with your foundations before you begin to twist deeply. Keep your low belly drawn in and your pelvis level. So that usually means drawing the left hip forward and the right hip back. Continue to press through the outside of the left foot and the big toe mound of the right foot. Make sure you're comfortable in the neck. Inhale, look down, soft bend in the right knee to press all the way back up, pinwheel the arms, come back to a neutral position with the feet. Bring the right foot to 45 degrees, left toes face the short edge of the mat as we square off the hips, bring the hands to the waist, just checking in that the pelvis is truly facing the short edge of the mat. And remember, bring your feet wider if you need to. Start by inhaling, reaching the right hand up towards the ceiling. See if you can draw the fingertips towards the navel with the left hand. Make sure the low belly is drawn in. And then as we exhale, hinge forward from the hips. Right hand to the block on the inside of the foot, the outside of the foot. For the full expression, bring the right hand to the outside of the left foot. And you can look to the side, but make sure you're strong through your foundations. For the full expression, the left hand reaches up towards the ceiling and we look up towards the left thumb. But you want to make sure that your low back is not twisting, your pelvis is not twisting. It's actually all coming from the upper back, the rib cage. So just checking in, if you wanted to use your left hand to see, you can just place the left hand on top of the sacrum, the flat part of the pelvis, and just checking in here that the hips are both level. Strong through the front foot, pressing through the big toe mound of the left foot to help draw the left hip back and in line with the right. Pressing through the right hand to help open, broaden through the chest. Inhale, look down, soft bend in the knee as we pinwheel the arms all the way back up to center. And exhale, step the feet back together, roll out the shoulders. Take a breath. You can feel restricted to breathe in twisting postures, so make sure you take as much time as you need. You want to make sure that your breath is expanding into the ribs. This is going to help deepen the lung capacity as well. So hopefully you're getting a good sense of digestion. Often after a few twisting postures, you may begin to hear your stomach beginning to make some digestive sounds, so it's a good sign. And then we're going to come into a revolved high lunge with the option to move into a revolved extended side angle position, depending on how mobile we are in our hips. So we're going to bring the feet to a little bit wider this time, about 5 feet wide roughly. You can always modify at the time. And you're going to start by drawing your right toes towards the short edge of the mat. Stack the right knee over the right ankle as we lift the left heel up. Now, if you're quite mobile in the hips, then you can keep that back foot at sort of 45 degrees to 10 degrees, pressing through the outside of the foot. But we'll start off by just lifting the heel to get comfortable here. Sink low into the hips. You want your right knee to stay stacked over the right ankle as we charge and stay strong through that back leg. Bring the palms together at the heart center, hips squared off to the short edge of the mat. As we exhale, we move into the twist. So we hook the outside of the left elbow to the outside of the right thigh. Okay, sinking low into the hips. You really want to imagine that the outside of the left rib cage is drawing out to the outside of the right thigh. Stay open through the chest. Option to begin to open up the arms by pressing the left hand to the outside of the right foot. And maybe bring the right arm alongside the right ear. This is a very deep posture. As I said, for the full expression, your left foot will be at 45 degrees as we continue to sink low into the hips, but we really want the hips to be squared. So that means drawing the right hip in line with the left. There's a tendency for the right hip to kind of stick out to the side. Try to draw it back and in line with the left. Only look up if it feels good on the neck. As we inhale, look down, pinwheel the arms to come back up to center. Exhale. Inhale, left toes face the short edge of the mat. Start by picking up the back heel.
Sink low into the hips. And bring the palms together at the heart center. So left knee over left ankle, strong through that back leg, whether the heel is up or down. Inhale fully. And then on the exhale, we hinge forward, hook the outside of the right elbow to the outside of the left thigh as we come into our prayer lunge. Okay, and then option, if you're feeling stable, you're feeling strong, and you think you can twist a little bit deeper, press the right hand to the outside of the left foot, bring the left arm alongside the left ear, look to fingertips for the full expression. Revolved side angle, you press the outside of the right foot down in towards the earth. Try to keep the left hip drawn in, avoid it sticking out to the side, keep the low belly drawn in as we twist from the ribs. Keep the shoulders nice and open, make sure they're not compressing up by the ears. And if you are in the full expression with the right hand to the outside of the left foot, use that right arm, press the left knee in towards the back of the arm. This will help stabilize the pelvis. Inhale, look down, pinwheel the arms to press up. And exhale, step the feet back together, shake out the legs. Well done. We'll move through to our seated sequence now. So we're going to come through a vinyasa. If you'd rather just come to a seat, you can just come to a seat. Otherwise, inhale, arms up. Exhale, hinge forward from the hips. Inhale, lengthen the spine. Exhale, step or float back through chaturanga. Inhale, upward facing. Exhale, downward facing. Inhale through to seated. Step, jump or float. So you can either drop to the shins, or if you're working towards jumping through, look to the hands. Maybe cross at the shins and jump through. Extending the legs out in front. We're going to move into our seated forward fold now. So if you're here, just focus on pressing the hands to the outside of the hips as we lengthen the spine. If you find that you struggle to keep the legs straight or the back straight, then just make sure that you bend at the knees as opposed to bending from the lower back. Okay, so if this is kind of happening, your legs are straight, but you find that you're kind of concaving in the lower back, the chest is coming forward, but the low back's pressing backwards, then this is going to be an uncomfortable stretch. This is only going to stretch out your lower back, which we don't really want to be stretching. So instead, either bend at the knees, or if you have a block, this is going to be really useful to help open up through the hips. So this reduces the angle of strain, so you can actually straighten the legs and the spine. Okay? Work with pressing into the hands on the outsides of the hips to stay nice and balanced. If you feel established in this foundation, you feel good, you can begin to fold forward, taking a hold of the thighs, the shins or the feet. Inhale to lengthen, lift the chest and look forward. And then as we exhale, we fold. Bring the crown of the head towards the feet and the chin towards the shins. Keep the shoulders away from the ears, the elbows bend down towards the earth. Look towards the toes. So as you're working towards this forward fold, you really want to visualize that your sit bones, the two bones that are rooting into the earth, are shooting back behind you, and the hip bones, the front side of the pelvis, are beginning to draw forward towards the thighs. This is going to help deepen the stretch in the backs of the legs, the hamstrings. This is where we really want the stretch to be. We don't want to be feeling compression in the lower back. We don't want to be feeling opening through the shoulders on the back of the body. We instead want to be feeling open through the chest on the front side of the body. Inhale, head up, look forward. Exhale fully. Inhale, come all the way back up to center. Bring the hands back to the outside of the hips and look forward. Exhale. Okay, and now we're going to move that into, we're going to move into a twisting position. We're actually going to take half Lord of the Fishes. So inhale, draw the right knee in towards the chest, and then place the right foot to the outside of the left knee. Keep the left leg nice and active as the toes flex back towards you. Use the crook of the left elbow to draw that right knee towards the midline as the right hand stamps to the outside of the right hip or towards the spine. And we stay strong through that back arm. Okay, this acts as a secondary spine to us. So we really want to utilize that by pressing into the hand as we look out over the right shoulder. Continue to draw that right knee towards the midline by using the left arm to help you. And keep the left leg nice and active. Keep the low belly drawn in. Feel the twist coming from the rib cage, the upper back. Almost as if your left ribs were trying to work towards pressing to the top of the right thigh. And we want to stay tall through the spine. We want to stay lifted. Make sure the shoulders aren't collapsing backwards, but they're staying stacked over the hips. It's going to be so useful for helping us activate that digestion. Just bringing awareness to the low belly is going to help us really reduce bloating, which I know for a lot of people can be hard when you're around the Christmas time. You tend to sit a lot more, not move so much, and we tend to eat a lot more as well, which is great. Of course, you've got to. It's Christmas time, but you just make sure that you do bring in these movements to stop you from feeling so lethargic. Inhale, look to center. Draw the right knee towards the midline and exhale to release, shake out the legs. And we'll come into that on the other side. So inhale, draw the left knee in, press the left foot to the outside of the right knee, keep the right leg active. Use the crook of the right elbow to draw that knee towards the midline, or you can just use the hand to help you. Press the left hand to the outside of the left hip as we lengthen the spine. As we twist, we begin to look out over the left shoulder as if we're drawing the right rib cage towards the left thigh. And you want to avoid hyperextending through that left elbow. If there's anyone who's quite flexible and knows that they are kind of double jointed in that left elbow, then just keep a soft bend. Stay strong and stay rooted through the palm of the hand, but avoid locking out the elbow. You want to be really careful with hyperextension in the joints. If we're not careful, it can just stretch out the ligaments, which we don't want to be doing. Okay, keep breathing deeply into the ribs. Low belly draws in and breathe expansive breaths into the chest. It may feel restrictive, but this is going to help us increase our lung capacity as we stretch out all those muscles around the rib cage. Inhale, look to center, release the left hand as we draw the left knee towards center, and exhale, release, and shake out the legs. Fantastic. Okay, we're going to come into another forward fold. We're going to come into bound angle Baddha Konasana. So as we inhale, we draw both knees in towards the chest. Bring the soles of the feet together. So if you find that your knees are uncomfortably high, just bring blocks underneath the thighs to help support you. If you feel comfortable, then you can release the blocks and just work with allowing gravity to gently open up the thighs. So the first option is to bring the hands to the outside of the hips. Focus on pressing through either the palms of the hands or the fingertips to stay long through the spine. Keep the shoulders away from the ears as we keep the chest lifted. If you feel quite open here, then you can interlace the fingers around the feet. Keep the elbows drawn in. And then as we exhale, draw the elbows in towards the thigh creases. As we look forward, keep the chest lifted, lengthen through the crown of the head as we bring the chin or the forehead down towards the earth. It doesn't matter how far down your knees go, as long as you're feeling the stretch in the inner thighs. Maybe you're feeling it in the outside of the hips as well. But we really want to keep the low belly drawn in to protect the lower back from overarching. We want to stay long through the spine as opposed to curving through the spine. Imagine the sit bones are shooting back behind you and the hip bones roll forward. Inhale, come through center, reach up, take a little lift at the top, draw the knees to center. And then release, extending the legs out long. Okay, we're going to come down to lay on our backs now as we begin to wind down the practice. So draw the knees in towards the chest. We're just going to take Apanasana, which is in English actually called wind relieving pose. Make of that what you will, but it is really good for digestion, just releasing. So draw the knees in close towards the chest, but try to stay long through the lower back. Try to keep the pelvis rooted onto the earth as opposed to kind of drawing into a ball. You want to keep the back of your head resting on the earth. And squeeze them in tight. almost like the tops of your thighs are massaging your low belly, if you can get them towards that point. And see if you can increase the pressure as the tops of the thighs rub and give your low belly a little massage. I love this posture. I think it's such a nice way of winding down, and if you only ever have a couple of minutes, then this is a really good one to practice. And then when you're ready, we're going to release into our Shavasana, our corpse pose. So extend your legs out long, bring your feet out to the front corners of the mat. Release your arms alongside the body with the palms facing up, and allow the feet to roll out to the sides. The ankles release down. Gently roll out to the outside of the calves, the thighs. As we softly open through the hips. Allow the palms of the hands to curl up and the fingers draw in. As we feel heavy and rooted through the forearms, try to allow that sensation to draw down into the upper arms as the shoulder blades draw down towards the earth. And then try to release the shoulders down and away from the ears. Find a nice neutral position for the neck. Maybe it feels good to tip the chin towards the chest as the eyes softly close. Feel releasing of the strain in the jaw, the forehead. And then drawing the awareness away from the external body, begin to tune in to the more subtle sensations you're feeling within the body, in the breath. Release your low belly, release Uddiyana Bandha, and allow your soft rhythmic breath to return. Maybe beginning to incorporate your 3-part belly breathing again. Watching the journey expand through the chest, the ribs, and the low belly. And any time you feel your mind beginning to drift away, returning to the thoughts of everyday life, just let them go and bring your awareness back to your breath. Finding stillness in the mind. And I recommend you stay resting in your Shavasana for at least another 3 to 5 minutes if you have the time. Thank you so much for practicing with me today. As you go forward, I wish you peace in your thoughts, peace in your words, and peace in your heart. Namaste.